bringing consciousness, awareness into the present moment, into your experience, embodying consciousness here in the now. What is consciousness? It is not a concept. It is not a word. It is the present existence in all totality. It is a present existence of all that is. Seen, unseen, known, unknown, material, immaterial. All of you are familiar with the concept of universal mind, universal consciousness. The full consciousness is not only the universal energy, frequency, vibration, but also the source from which it came. It is not anywhere far. Consciousness is not somewhere else. It is right here, and it encompasses this whole present experience and in which experience is happening. I like to refer it to as the transparent existence. You are most likely noticing what is right in front of you and what is around in your room, but you are not noticing the transparent space in which you are, this room is, the transparent space between your eyes and the objects that you look at. This transparent space is not separate from you because it is awareness. What is awareness, to simply put, for those who are wondering? It is simply a fact that you are aware and conscious. There is nothing more to think about it. The simple fact, the simple obviousness that you are aware and conscious is usually overlooked by the entertainment of the mind. the mind is tied to the objectivity, to what it can see and think about. And for some reason, the mind skips the context, the space. Just like when you are reading a book, when you're reading a text on a white paper, you're looking at the black letters, you're reading the sentences. And somehow your eyes are skipping the white paper on which the black ink appears. So consciousness is that white paper, and the black ink is not separate from the white paper. It is on the white paper. Any story can be written on a white paper. Any complex mathematical equation can be solved on a white paper. Any simple drawing of a child can be seen on a white paper. So this white paper is the consciousness that we refer to. And in reality, it is not even white, it is transparent. So consciousness is transparent. It is here and present, upon which your life is being lived, upon which you think. Any thought in your mind is appearing on a transparent space. Any emotion, however pleasant or hurtful, intense, is experienced on this transparent space. This transparent space is you. It's absolutely not separate from you. Separation is a thought. Separation is a program. Separation is a feeling that I am separate, being experienced in a transparent space of your own self. So separation is nothing more than just a feeling. It can be also a thought. It is a sense, a feeling sensation that somehow I am separate. And another moment when you're resting peacefully, you're not feeling separate. You're resting peacefully. When you're happy, you're not thinking about separation. You're enjoying happiness. So all emotions, happiness and peace and separation, are what I call experiences, emotions, feelings. The freedom, liberation, is a freedom from all experiences, good and bad. This freedom that I speak of is this transparent space, conscious space. A thought of you arises in this transparent space, and you think that you are different, unique, separate. It is just a thought, just a feeling. This conscious space has no identity, and that is your real identity, your real essence. This conscious space, transparent space, is the ultimate home, is the only home. It is the home of all experiences. It is a home of loneliness. It is a home of homeness. It is a home of happiness. It is a home of peace. Because all is experienced in this transparent, conscious space. So when you pause for a moment, when you pause any thought, you are already aware. And it is so simple. There is nothing more to add to that. Anything that the mind would add to this simple awareness is an addition of the mind. So the mind seeks happiness, first of all, in knowledge, to understand this and this and that. Then the mind seeks happiness in feelings, to feel happiness, to feel love, to feel peace. Then the mind realizes that spirituality or consciousness work is the path to happiness. So then all the spiritual endeavors occur. Then the mind starts looking at away from the materialism, from the 3D into the internalism of the inner self, of the inner dimensions, of the inner experiences. Spirituality means that which is within. Materialism is that which is outside. Spirituality is that which is within. But liberation, consciousness is everywhere, inside, outside. Because inside, outside is just one experience. The outer experience, the inner experience. So the mind grows and gets to know itself more and more with the inner experience, the inner management, finding more stillness, more peace. In the more advanced spiritual and non-duality work, we decondition the mind from dualities, from recognition of the unnecessary functions and conditions. As we go and mature more, we recognize more and more unnecessary functions, unnecessary conditions. Previously, one would not imagine living without thoughts. One would not imagine living without the personal story. One would not imagine living without the feeling of I, myself, or having a very strong sense of the boundaries of your skin and bones. So as the mind matures, so to speak, it relaxes more into this emptiness. Those rigid conditions, rigid beliefs, rigid ideas soften, become healed and transcended because you are no longer interested in them, either consciously or subconsciously. You become more interested in the transparent emptiness, in the transparent conscious space. This transparent conscious space becomes more interesting than any other experience. Whatever mind can think of becomes less interesting. Than the actual awareness in which those thoughts arise. So your interest, conscious or unconscious, willing or unwilling, by choice or by condition, is what is called resonance. That which you resonate with. You may resonate with life experiences that are needed on your journey to liberation, however unpleasant they might be. So this interest is actually a resonance into good and bad. And you stop resonating. You resonate less and less with good and bad, with the duality of good and bad. You start enjoying more and more the transparent, open space, awareness. It is called a shift of awareness, a shift of focus, a shift of perception. Because beforehand you were fully focused on objectivity, materialism, and now you suddenly shift into the space, the transparency of all. Your interest has shifted, your resonance shifts, and that is called awakening. There are many degrees of awakening. This transparent, aware space is undeniably here. You only simply need to ask yourself a question, am I aware? And that is an obvious yes. It is undeniable. Experiences are debatable. Experiences are subjective. They are subjective to each experiencer. But the awareness is undeniably present. And when you ask a question, am I aware? It is an obvious yes. It doesn't feel separate, not even for a moment. And then, as your usual condition takes over, you start to feel yourself as you usually feel at the current resonance. When you ask a question, am I aware? In that moment, there is no separation. There is no single thought of separation or unity or oneness. It's just obvious yes. It is not the mind which answers the question. It is awareness which becomes evident. So enlightenment is stabilization in awareness. It is a disidentification from objectivity experiences. Disidentification and disresonance, disinterest. There is no negativity in disinterest. There is no more need for particularity, for a particular experience. There is no more condition or bondage of particular experience. So therefore, whatever happens in the world, in your life, the only question is to whom it happens. At the lower state, you would answer the I, to me, to my personal story. At a higher level, you will say it is the universe itself happening like this. And once in awareness, you will recognize that it is only the ink on a white paper. It happens to awareness in awareness. So your identity shifts into awareness itself, and this awareness becomes self-evident. You start to realize that it is the most stable identity, that it is the most fundamental being, fundamental reality, fundamental truth. As you look at awareness, you recognize it's always shining. It is transparent light. Just like at night in the dark, when you look at the dark, you see the dark. If you say, I see nothing, you see the darkness at night when there are no lights. When you say, I see the light, you see the light. So seeing the darkness and the light is, we may say, a transparent seeing. So therefore, awareness itself is a transparent seeing through the whole existence, through the whole universe, wherever your focus is. The awareness is self-shining, just like the sun is shining by itself. The awareness is obvious to itself, just like the sun knows itself, that it is a sun and it is shining. In awareness, all experiences become welcomed exactly as they are. The resistance is no longer needed. The resistance is the I, the myself, the mind, the position of a lower self. It is like a stick in a wheel that doesn't allow the wheel to spin easily. So when you remove the I, the experiences become allowed as they are. It doesn't mean that necessarily your experiences become always bliss and love and peace. That depends on your vibrational resonance, on your evolution of the form of the soul. That is the evolution of your point of perception. But the liberation itself is liberation from even your soul, because God includes all the souls. So no matter how big we may think and refer to, these are all experiences. And therefore my welcoming you is welcoming home, the only home, the real home. And many of you will ask, so how do I get there? First of all, you are already in awareness. You are already aware. But of course, I know that your mind is present too, and that is not your experience. being as awareness. So therefore the gateway, the opener, is a question, a simple question: am I aware? It is an obvious yes. And the second step is understanding, inquiry, realization of every experience that happens in you. So you have to inquire diligently and observe closely what is occurring in your mind, in your head, to recognize your attachments, to recognize the repeating cycles, to recognize your interests, your resonances, so that you clearly, fully, absolutely understand the materialism, the seeking for happiness in spirituality, the transient nature of experiences such as in meditation when you have a feeling of love or peace or bliss. They're transient. They are amazing experiences, but they're transient. You need to clearly start distinguishing what are you truly seeking for? What are your ideas about enlightenment? What are your ideas about liberation? What do you assume this liberation to be? What is your motivation? To have fun? To have some cool experiences that you can tell your friends? What is your real motivation? To change your life circumstances? Many people think that enlightenment is gonna solve all their life problems. Problems with kids, problems with finances, problems with health. What is the motivation? Trying to prove something to someone, trying to achieve something, trying to prove something to yourself that you can do it, trying to achieve the next highest. What is the real motivation? So in this meeting, I invite you to inquire within you what is your real motivation. And is being for the sake of being enough? Is being aware for the sake of being aware enough? To inquire into your resonances and motivation. Because there is no other than you holding that. You are your own obstacle. You are your own path. You are your own time. Saying to yourself, I might need a couple of years on this. You create your own time in you. Your resonance and motivation is the mirror appearing in awareness. It is the experience appearing in awareness. And it is only you who decides moment by moment, second by second. So this is the inquiry into your resonance, experience, and motivation. You may say, I simply want to have more peace in my life. I simply want to be not bothered by someone. I don't want to feel like this anymore, or I want to feel different like that always. These are your motivations, your assumptions, your ideas, that what you seek for. It is no other than you who has came to this conclusion or holding this seeking, needing, wanting. And the question is whether being for the sake of being is enough, whether being aware for the sake of being aware is enough. Because that is the ultimate liberation, when that is enough, when the mind expires, when the mind exhausts all the options, all the strategies, all the possibilities. When the mind exhausts all the options, strategies and possibilities, something drops, and this becomes enough. And that is the stabilization in awareness. You can reflect on motivations. You can reflect on resonances, interests. You can reflect on meanings. And you can compare with a question whether is it enough to be aware, to be for the sake of being, to be aware for the sake of being aware. Is it enough to be the white paper? Is it enough to be the transparent space for all experiences? Then you can reflect when something comes up in you that you're seeking for something particular in your life, in you, to allow, to observe and allow. So if your mind tells you you simply want peace, allow and observe. If you simply want to feel connected, allow and observe. What is that you simply want? Allow and observe. If you need, you can stay longer in a meditative way.